Hello and welcome to Introduction to the Gaia Scanner. The Gaia Scanner allows you to use meshes, textures, raw files, and terrains and convert them into a .exr file, which can be used for stamping your terrain to create some amazing results. In this tutorial, we're going to talk about where to locate the Gaia Scanner, how to use it, and some example cases on what this tool can be used for. So, without further ado, let's build worlds together. Alright, so we have a 2021 project using Gaia Pro 2021, and we are in HDRP. First, we're going to start off by opening up the Gaia Manager. As always, if you're stuck and you need help, you can hover over the word for the tooltips, or you can click on this question mark, or you can go to the Help tab and find our tutorials, our ticketed support, or our solutions, or you can launch a ticket, or join our Discord community. So, if we click on the Advanced tab, and we open up Gaia Tools, here we can find the scanner. Once we click on this, this will add the object to the hierarchy, and having this selected, we can see a preview once we select a file to scan. I'm going to quickly drag this out of the way. And then here, we can take a look at the inspector. The Gaia Scanner allows you to create new stamps from Windows R16, Windows 16-bit RAW, Mac 16-bit RAW, terrains, textures, or meshes. Just drag and drop the file or object onto the area below to scan it. This is the area. No objects are scanned yet, so drag and drop a raw file, texture, or terrain on the box above to begin. So, first thing that we're going to do is I made a terrain in Blender, and you can import any terrain from any program like Blender or Maya or whatever it is you're using. I exported this out and I imported it into our Unity project, and here is that terrain from Blender. Now I'm going to drag this terrain into the scanner. So then I'm going to click on scanner, and then I'm going to drag that terrain in. And this is processing the height from the mesh and just processing all of this data for us to render a preview of the scan before we turn it into a .exr file. So here we go. Now we have this terrain that we've made in Blender, and then we can see we have the preview material, the export folder, which is in the Gaia user data, stamps, scanner, exports. I would honestly leave this in this folder, that way it's easier for us to find later, and I'll show you why. Our file name, which we can change this and say my custom terrain. And then we have our base level, which the base level for the stamp used by the stamper to cut off all heights below the base. It is the highest point of the stamp around the edges. So if we move and adjust this, we can see that everything below this plane will be cut off. But we're going to keep this at 0 because I really like this. And then we have the mesh scan resolution, which the resolution of the scan when scanning meshes, lower equals better resolution, but longer scan duration. You need to scan the mesh again after changing the setting. 0.1 is the number by default, which is fine. You have normalize, which normalizes the scan data so that it uses the full available range within the stamp. If you're unsure about the setting, leave it on. Usually you want this to be on when using the scan resource as a stamp. So that is perfect. And then you can also export as PNG. So exporting this as a PNG will allow you to put it into Photoshop or Blender or something like that and modify the PNG. And then you could then drag this back in here and scan it again. So we're going to go ahead and click scan. And this is going to generate our texture and make our .exr file to use in the Gaia Stamper. There we go. And now you can see the My Custom Terrain, and we now have a .exr file. So then we are going to turn off the preview for this scanner. We are going to open up the Gaia Manager. There we go. We're going to click on our standard tab. And right here, we see the preview of the Gaia Manager and our world. And we are going to just click on small. Desktop's fine. Alpine Meadow is fine. And we're going to go with the manual with Stamper. We're going to create our terrains. Click yes for HDRP lighting setup. This is making our terrain for us in our preview. Okay. Now we can drag this off to the side. And now, when we click on our Scanner Exports tab, we can see our terrain that we just scanned. So we are going to click Apply. And then here we can still change our settings here. So let's just drop that sea level down to about there. Looks really cool. And then let's go ahead. Actually, you know what? Let's just drop this all the way down to 0. Go ahead and click Stamp. This is going to stamp our terrain and texture it for us. Okay. And now we can click on Control G and let's go ahead and create our runtime. Let's give us a little bit of water here. Something like that looks fine. So what you're seeing here, if we have this back at 0, this is fighting with the terrain here. So if you see this, this is because they're both at 0, and you're going to need to adjust your water level here. Like so. Now we don't have any of that fighting there. Looks good. So now we have just used one of our favorite programs to make a terrain, export that into Unity, and then use the Gaia scanner to turn that into a stamp and stamp out the terrain. And that's just one of the use cases. Now, let's explore some of the other use cases. So let's say this land here was hit by a volcano, and we want to create some impacts in the terrain, or a meteor came down and impacted the terrain. So what we can do is we can use the scanner to scan multiple objects to create like this crater effect for our terrain. One way of doing that is, let's find a rock. Like, find some rock with a little bit of interest here. Something like that looks cool. So let's go ahead and drag that rock out. Boop, there it is. Make this just a tad bit bigger. Maybe like that. Let's duplicate this rock. Do something like here. Cool. And then let's create a empty game object and put this between the two. And then let's drag both of our rocks into this empty game object and rename this and say craters. And then let's save this in our asset folders by turning it into a prefab. And then we are going to open up our Gaia scanner again. And we are going to drag our new prefab into our objects to scan. One thing I want to point out is that when you have a terrain here, or any other object in the scene with the scanner, what's actually happening is that when we go to scan, we are raycasting down. So you want to make sure to turn off any other objects, like your terrain and the craters that we just made. So that way there's nothing interfering with the scan itself. So then we're going to click on our scanner again. And we can name this craters as fine. And let's just change our base level here to something like here maybe. We don't need too crazy of a height here. And then let's go ahead and save our scan. So now you can see that we have a height map of our scan. We're going to turn off our scanner, turn our terrain back on, and then we are going to select our stamper. We are going to click on the stamps icon to open up our browser. And now we have a scan of our rocks. We're going to click apply. And there you can see our two rocks. We're going to reduce the scanner. So. Then we're going to add in a custom mask, and we are going to set a distance mask on this and change the influence from local to global, so that way it adapts to our terrain. We are going to change the operation type from raise height to lower height, and then drag this up. And then we are going to invert this stamp. Then we just need to find a good spot for this. Maybe here. There we go. Then we are going to stamp the terrain. And here you can see kind of some crater impacts from the terrain. And we can make this a little deeper, a little taller. Then we would want to go ahead and click on our biome. Go to our texture spawner anytime that you modify the terrain. And then we are going to hit fit to terrain or fit to world, depending on your world size. And then we are going to spawn world. This way we can fix the texture issue there from modifying our terrain. And we just created the little crater-like effects in our terrain. Next, what we can do is we can open up a brand new paint. And let's go ahead and create some rivers, but we are going to do this the opposite way. We're going to make this black, and then we are going to click on our brush, change our size here, and create a couple of lines here. So we'll create a line here. And we are going to invert this as soon as we get it in. Let's make a couple of darker lines here and then a couple of side lines here. Kind of give it some width. Doesn't have to be perfect because the world isn't perfect. And remember that black is the lowest point and the brighter it is the highest point. So pure white is the highest point. We can add in some gray to get a couple of midtones here. Kind of blend this in a little bit better. Off to the sides here. And maybe choose a little bit lighter gray here. So, again, doesn't have to be perfect. Then we're going to do the same thing over here. We're going to go white, then white. And then we're going to add some gray. Again, blend this. And add a little bit of light gray to this right here. And this is the technique with Grayscale. This is called grayscaling. There we go. All right. Then we're going to file, save as, and we are going to save this to our desktop, and we'll just call this River Bank. Hit save. Saving as a PNG and using PNGs are a bit better because you can get 16-bit images out of it. JPEGs, you can only get 8-bit. So usually using PNG files is actually the better option here. Then we are going to grab our riverbank and drag it in. Then we are going to, again, turn off the terrain here. Let's click on our scanner. And we can actually watch this. So let's go ahead and set that to 0. And when we import our object into that box, we can see our new preview. And again, we're going to invert this to make kind of like cracks in the air type river feels here. And then let's go ahead and maybe adjust this. We cut this off, adjust the base there. And then we are going to save our scan. Now you can see our scan of our file here. We're going to click on the scanner and turn this off. Click on our trains, turn this back on. And then we are going to click on our stamper and click on our stamps to open up our preview browser and then find our rivers. There they are. Then we can move this scanner around, so say over here. And we already have it set to lower height, which is perfect. Let's click on the influence here. Maybe something like that. That looks cool. Maybe make this a bit bigger. So it looks like we're cutting into the train here. Make that a little bit deeper. Like so. Maybe expand that just a bit more. There we go. And let's go ahead and hit stamp. Now we have created some like cracking river effects here, and we could adjust the water here, so we can click on our biome, increase our sea level here, kind of fill up the water, put some water in there. Or this would be a perfect use of Geno Pro, and then you can create your river splines along here to kind of get some water in here as well. So it's just another perfect option. But we're just adding some detail to our terrain here. There we go. One thing I like to do when using the scanner is, in creating these stamps, I like to go ahead and click on the Unity terrain and then click on the paintbrush here. And we have this smooth height option. This is great for when you're trying to smooth out the terrain to get out some of these really harsh edges to make it a little bit more natural. Like so. Plus, the player has, if you're using a player character, it usually has a hard time with really sharp images. So, kind of using this tool a bit to modify the terrain here to make this a little bit smoother, a little bit more natural. And water usually smooths out the terrain or earth anyways, so makes sense. Okay. Another really cool thing that we can do is we can use a image that we find. All I did is I went to Google and then I looked for a height map, Grayscale height map, like this, And then same thing, I downloaded it, I saved it, and imported it into our Unity project. Here's one right here. And you can do the same thing with these grayscales. So again, I'm going to turn off the terrain here. I'm going to click on the scanner and turn that back on. Then I am going to ingest our height map into the drop objects here to scan. We're going to raise this up so we can see this preview. And here you can see that preview. Again, we're going to kind of just change the space level here to something like that. And then we're going to, again, save our scan. And now we have that scan file. And as you can see, this is a 16-bit, so this is really good to use. We are going to turn off our scanner. Then we're going to open up our stamper. Again, click on stamps. And then we can change to this new height map. We are going to go ahead and click on our terrain. Turn this on. And we are going to flatten out our terrain. So we're going to fit to world. And then click flatten. Hit yes. And then we are going to change our stamping to raise height. Invert our stamp again. And now we have that height map here. So we are going to move this a bit. Like so. Give it a little bit of water. I like the water from Gaia. There we go. Click on stamp. Again, it's going to texture and stamp this automatically for us. And then again, I like to click on that terrain. And let's go ahead and smooth out the height here. Get rid of some of these sharp edges. That way our player has a little bit of easier time on this terrain. Now what's really cool is if you do this technique, you can see that we're modifying the terrain, and even though we're reducing the poly counts for our textures, this is a way to kind of fake those more features and details. So we're reducing the poly count and making this really affordable to use, but we can either keep the textures here and not respawn our biome textures to get kind of this unique look, even though this is not actually the case. So when we texturize the terrain, these are going by heights and slopes and all that good stuff. So when we leave this alone, you know, this will all change, but this is a way to kind of get those features in there. So an example, this is what the terrain looks like. You can definitely tell right here. Oh, this has got a whole bunch of different patches everywhere. But watch what happens when we go ahead and texture this terrain. And again, you can keep it like this for some really cool feature results, or you can respawn the textures. We're going to go ahead and click spawn world. And right here, notice how all these textures just, you know, are now correct based off of height and slope. That's exactly what's happening here. All right. So we have our terrain that we use from Google that we found, and we use a height map, put that in the scanner. And one last thing I want to show you, which is really cool, is finding buildings or, you know, any sort of pretty much picture or diagram or something. For this example, I've got a house diagram here. And this could be really useful for, let's say you want to prototype houses, or maybe you're struggling putting houses together with prefabs or assets. There's a couple of things we could do here. We could use this and scan it, turn it into a stamp, and stamp it out on the terrain, and then use our assets to, you know, build up the house like you would. So kind of use this as a terrain layout template, essentially, to build our houses. Or we can turn this into like a medieval environment that's, you know, somebody made a long time ago. So again, we're going to click on our terrain. We're going to turn it off. And then we're going to click on our stamp scanner here, turn that on, and we can see our old preview, but we are going to drag in our house diagram here, and we are going to move this up a bit so we can see this. There you go. You can see this. This is really, really cool here, that you can put this into a scan and then we can stamp it. So essentially you could put your assets and use this to make your houses or a prototype or whatever, or we can turn this into a dungeon. Anything we want to do with this, we can do with it. So let's increase the space here just a bit, maybe like that. Let's go ahead and rename this and say house. Just so we know, hit save, and there we go. We have our EXR house file. So we're going to turn on that train. We are going to turn off our scanner. And let's click on our stamper here. Again, click on stamps, open up the browser. And then there's our house diagram. And we can make this a bit smaller here. We don't need to have it so big. There we go. And then let's just find a really cool spot for this. So there's the entrance to our door. So let's put this kind of on a good spot here. There we go. Increase this up a bit. Perfect. And we could increase this a bit more, something like that. Yeah, that's perfect. There we go. And let's go ahead and click stamp. And there we go. We have our house here that we have created. And then again, this could be used for like a dungeon or maybe some old mining field or whatever you want to use this for. And again, let's go ahead and smooth this out a bit. So we don't want anything too crazy here because we still want to kind of keep the shape, but we want to get some of these harsh edging here out. There we go. Perfect. Kind of smooth this out just a bit. So as you guys can see, there's so many really cool use case scenarios, and there's a lot of different options that you can use this for when, you know, adding some really cool features to your worlds, or, you know, creating some templates for layouts or dungeons or whatever the case may be. Possibilities are literally endless with this tool. Maybe create this as something. There we go. And there we go. So let's go ahead and finish this off, and let's click on our biome, and let's go ahead and spawn our biome. And then let's click on our runtime here. Click on our Gaia player. You can actually change your player within the Gaia runtime, so we can change this from first person to flag camera. Well, let's stick with the first person here. Again, the white planes here is with Unity and HDRP because Unity does not handle HDRP grass yet. So this is how this will look. Just note that when you hit play, the Flora from Gaia Pro 2021 will only work in runtime. So the moment we hit play, we will have grass. So let's go ahead and click play. Maximize. We could adjust this a bit more here. So yeah, there's so many really cool and exciting things that you can do with the scanner. And yeah. This is looking really cool, actually. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, please remember to leave a like and hit that notification bell to get future updates when we post videos. And let us know in the comments below what you guys think. What are some tutorials that you guys want to see in the future? We plan on doing a lot more of these. Well, thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you next time.